Hello there once again. This time I'm going to be sharing with you how I do lesson review or the Sabbath School lesson. So let me share my screen. Oh, all right. So the lesson this quarter is Paul's ministry in Corinth or Paul's missionary journey in that area. But this week's lesson is the introduction for the whole entire uh, quarterly. So these are my tips. And it's got two parts, zoom in and zoom out. When I say zoom in, that's diving into the lesson itself. When I say zoom out, that means you step back and try to consider the broader perspective of what's going on during the lesson review. So first is what to do, and of course, there's always this flip side, and I like doing this, is what not to do. What to do, focus on the main passage. All right. So the main passage in this lesson is in Acts 18:9 to 10. One night the Lord said to Paul in a vision, "Do not be afraid, but speak and do not be silent, for I am with you, and no one will lay a hand on you to harm you, for there are many in the city who are my people." Okay, before we expound on this, another tip is you got to know the main contributor of the lesson quarterly, and that's Aguiar. He's a theologian, so his way of doing things, his methodology, his approach resonates with me, and I think I'm gonna do the lesson review or approach the lesson as he does. And after considering the main passage, be consistent with the theme. Okay. So upon looking at the title itself, the Paul's ministry in Corinth. So this is his ministry, and what is Corinth or what was Corinth during that time about 2000 years ago. It was entirely different as the Corinth, as the present day Corinth, and the lesson unpacks that the background, and that will give you the context itself. And finally, look for the anchor point. How do you do that? So from the title, from the main passage, mm, uh, what can we say about it? So his ministry and main passage, God called him to be an apostle to specifically to reach the unreached, and the unreached are the Gentiles during his time. So I believe, is the anchor point. It's outreach. What not to do? Okay, discuss all readings. These are things to avoid. As you can see, we got one, two, three, four, five, six texts here. And some are long, some are short. If you're gonna deal with this, all right, bit by bit, you won't have time because you're looking at what, how long? 30 minutes, 40 minutes, give or take. That depends on your church and on the circumstance that Sabbath. So my advice is just focus on the main passage. Again, the theme, the anchor point. Second is what to avoid. Do daily discussions. I don't want to step on someone else's toe, but this is, I think, is one of the pitfalls that I observe. So the Sabbath school teacher or facilitator will give the introduction and then go to Sunday. All right. Now let's go to Monday. Now we're on Tuesday. Okay, let's now deal with Wednesday. And you know what? Chances are, when you get to Thursday, you'll be rushing for Thursday, and then Friday, and wrap it up, and then get the gist of the lesson and the core practical application. That's too much. That's being ambitious. That's why my advice is uh, focus on the main passage, look for the theme, be consistent. And that is uh, that it is Jesus Christ who called him, and Jesus Christ who will sustain him. And the gospel is all about Jesus Christ as well. The anchor point is to reach the unreached, and in his case, people in Corinth, that's in almost northern part of Greece. And it mentions here that he goes to Corinth after Athens. Athens is around southern part of it. If you've been in Greece, you know what I'm talking about, to know more about the geography and the context. Uh, do not monopolize the conversation. Remember, you're a facilitator. You're not preaching, you're not teaching per se, you're facilitating. What does it mean? In first 5 minutes, you just give the introduction, the context in brief. Uh, like I said, uh, focus on the main passage, the theme, look for the theme, and then the anchor point, which I already laid down. And then let them talk, let them contribute. Throw in those questions relating to those 3 points. Okay. Uh, so ideally, perhaps you can speak for like a third, but not more than that. So around 10 minutes in total, and then the rest of 20 minutes or 30 minutes that should come from your members in your Sabbath school class or small group. Now it's time for us to zoom out. Okay. How do we zoom out? After diving into the lesson, the methodology itself. Be Christocentric. I'm always Christocentric whenever I teach, whenever I preach, even in doing Sabbath school review. Why do you need to streamline? Because remember, this is review. It's not a day-to-day study. Okay. You have done your homework as facilitator to summarize it and to do PowerPoints. When I say PowerPoints, it's not presentation, bullet points. And you got it from here. Yeah. And the rest of the talking is from the people listening to you. And it's now time for them to speak, not you. So with the methodology, when you're Christocentric, okay, so in your lesson, Jesus Christ should come out and come out loud and be consistent about it. So begin with Christ, and with Christ, and everything in between is about Jesus Christ. For instance, here, the Lord who called out Paul into his ministry is no other than Jesus Christ. And the one who sustains him is Jesus Christ. Even the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of Christ. And then the gospel itself is the gospel in Jesus Christ. And also with that tone or with that idea. Be seeker sensitive. Because the idea for Sabbath school is a small group or a cell group. It's meant to be an in-between, because if you got visitors, especially the first-time visitors in your church, it's a great task to ask them to be part of the church. You can help them assimilate in a way by being part of your small group or Sabbath school. Okay, so be sensitive with how they think, where they're coming from. And another practical thing in being seeker sensitive in your lesson facilitation is not to use jargons, Adventist terms, for instance. With this lesson quarterly, what is lesson quarterly? You got to unpack. This is Bible study guide, and this time it's geared on uh, epistle, Paul's epistle in the church in Corinth. Okay. Uh, and another thing, it comes natural as an Adventist that you're gonna throw out Adventist jargons. For instance, in outreach, one way of doing it is to get involved in colporteur ministry. They have no idea what you're talking about, or we're gonna have this big crusade this coming area fellowship is the promotion, and the outreach is a big deal, like what Paul is doing here. Your visitor, your guest is already lost in the lesson itself, and will be more lost in the way you handle things, your approach, your words. You're not helping that person to assimilate. So be aware of that. And finally, be simple but not simplistic. I know it sounds synonymous, but when I say being simple, I shared with you how to be simple, what to do and what not to do, not to complicate things. But not simplistic by being presumptuous, assuming that your audience know these things already. No, you got to help them, especially your guest. Perhaps your guest is not a Bible reader. Perhaps your guest, first time coming into the Adventist church, or perhaps your guest might be an unbeliever. So you got to help them introduce into this thing step by step, baby step. So I think with a simple, quick, and very streamlined approach to doing lesson review, uh, you learned a lot. And remember, this is a time in church where people can speak. They can't do that elsewhere in the program, especially during divine service or second service. They just absorb, but in Sabbath school, they can actually respond. So help them respond. Uh, Carry them over to the discussion. And the best thing is help them to know more about Jesus Christ and to trust Him more and get involved in spreading the gospel in Jesus Christ. All right. Hope you learned. And thanks again for listening. Shalom.